You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Hi, and thanks for coming back again to Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. And yes, it has been another eventful 3 days, and you're going to hear in a minute some music, which is nice, and we're going to end with some music, and we're going to meet some great people. And there's one particular guy who really helped me through this last couple of days, and somebody who was a listener who instantly became a friend, which is how it works out here. So I hope you stick around to enjoy the whole show. But before we get into the show, let's hear from our friends at Sawyer. When I hit the trail in 2014, I soon discovered that I come with the wrong water filter. Everybody else had a Sawyer squeeze. Eventually I bought a squeeze and I loved it. I'm going again this year, and top of my list of things to buy was the new micro squeeze filter by Sawyer. Like all Sawyer stuff, it just works. You can filter up to 100,000 gallons, and their full-size squeeze filter comes with a lifetime warranty. Last year, believe it or not, more than 4 million people got clean water through a Sawyer water filter. But if you think that Sawyer is just about water filters, you could not be more wrong. Nope, they supply everything to protect you, both in the backcountry and the backyard. Protect your gear and clothes as I did with their permethrin fabric treatment, which is 100% odorless after drying. With all the ticks and bugs around, this is an absolute must. They also provide sunscreens and first aid products. Find out more by visiting Sawyer.com. I'm so pleased that Sawyer have decided to sponsor the show. I really appreciate their support. And once again, I thank you all for your support. You've been amazing the way in which you reached out and told me how much you're enjoying the show. And, I wouldn't do it if it wasn't getting a response, but this is getting such a positive response. And positivity is what this is all about, obviously. But I've had an amazing 3 days. So I'm without further ado, I'm just going to go straight into day number 40, which was extraordinary. Absolutely an extraordinary day. Day 40, Carvers Gap, mile 380.4 to US 19E, mile 395.2, 14.8 miles. When I left you last, I was staying at Anne and Steve Campbell's at the Roan Mountain B&B, and I just loved it there. It was very, very comfortable, a lovely break for me. But late at night, I got a message from somebody, Ryan and Jerry Lynn Owen, and they were asking me to come and spend the evening with them the next day. They were actually asking where I was. They'd heard from Miss Janet about me and about the show, and wanted to invite me to their hiker home. So I'm going to tell you more about that in a minute. So I actually thought it was just a listener, but these guys turned out to be something quite special, but we'll come to them later. Anne and Steve made us a great breakfast, and so I'm so glad I stayed at Roan Mountain B&B, and I highly recommend that to anybody. And Steve then drove me right back up to Carvers Gap, and as I said to you the other day, Carvers Gap for me had some terrible memories, and having smashed my flipping knee the day before, it still has terrible memories for me. But what happens after Carvers Gap is just quite extraordinary. And if you ever want a fantastic day, do this day. It's quite a long hike. It's, say, 14.8 miles, as I say. But if you've got a sunny day, there is nowhere you're going to enjoy more than that place. Steve drove me back there, as I say, and we met a couple he knew, and we started chatting with them, and it was a sunny day, and I just couldn't wait to get started. So I headed up round Bald, and immediately we were going through some trees first off, and eventually emerged from these trees into a true, oh my God, moment. You have a view from round Bald of North Carolina on one side and Tennessee on the other side, and everything everything was under cloud. There are mountains sticking out of these clouds, looking like islands in the sea. And if you get the chance, look either in my Instagram account or on the YouTube account to see some of the pictures I took on this day. They're just amazing. And it was constant, oh my God stuff, I tell you. Jane Bald was the next one, and it was just as beautiful. And I saw a couple of people who'd been camping up there the night before, and they had a drone. They were taking pictures. This drone was flying above me. There were plenty of scouts and day hikers around, and everybody was just enjoying the day. It was just absolutely fabulous. There was then a long climb down after these two early boards to a wooded area where I sat and had some lunch, and I was thoroughly enjoying myself. And I knew that we had Little Hump and Hump Mountain, or as I call it first time round, Big Hump. And, I'd forgotten the scale of these things. In my mind, these were easily climbable and stuff, but, I really pushed myself up them because the early going up Little Hump proved to be a really, really tough start. And I got up there, and it was beautiful up there. Once again, the view all around me was fantastic. But then I started coming down Little Hump Mountain, and I realized I had totally underestimated Hump Mountain. It really tested me. I could see it from a distance, and you could see the trail ahead of you just snaking up this mountain. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's easier in the trees, or maybe it's easier outside the trees. I don't know actually, but to see this thing and zoom in on my video and see hikers trudging up there, thinking to myself, "Oh my God, that's going to be me in a minute." It really, really tested me. But as I keep saying, there's nothing I haven't got up so far. And at the very, very top, there's a scout troop. And what a great way for these kids to spend their day, eh? And I just reveled in it, looking around at a 360-degree view, looking at the mountains ahead of us, the mountains behind us, and the two states I could see either side now. The cloud had lifted, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful day. And on the way down, I'd forgotten actually, there's more bald on the way down. So I'm walking through a meadow, the sun's out, and I'm just in my absolute element. I've got some great pictures. But then I keep doing this. I come to areas, I think, oh yes, I remember that from last time. And the climb down from back to 19E is quite extensive. I think it's about 5 miles, 5.5, maybe even 6 miles down to 19E. And there are a lot of rocks on that path. And I found it quite testing. And there are several which look quite dangerous to me. And so I really was quite slow on the way down. Near 19E, I ran into a guy who said, have you got a beer in your pack? And I said, no, I don't carry beers with me. And he said, you're, and he said, what's your name? I said, I'm Mighty Blue. He said, you should start a podcast, Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail. His name's Arnold Guzman. He's a listener. He provides trail magic, and he is such a nice man. He immediately gave me a beer, which of course I thankfully drank. And he took us a couple of photos. He said he'd been hoping he'd meet me. I always find it a bit, I don't know what I should think at the time, but it's almost like you feel like somebody is delighted to see you. And I was delighted to meet him as well. And, it's just such a lovely thing that people have this feeling about the show and they want to meet you. And luckily enough, I was able to meet Arnold later, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. I got to 19E and Ryan turned up soon after, and he started driving through Rome Mountain, well past Rome Mountain, to a place called Elizabethton. And he's got what they call a hiker home. Ryan and Jerry Lynn, his wife, and their 5 kids tried to hike the trail in 2017. And they loved it so much. They had to get off, unfortunately, because of an injury to one of them, or actually a surgery that one had to have. And they decided to commit their lives in many ways to doing something with their home. And they bought this home in Tennessee, in Elizabethton. And They decided to make it somewhere hikers could come, be comfortable and safe and warm and clean. And they've really, really nailed it. They'd invited me. They weren't expecting any payment from me at all, although I actually did give a donation when I left because they were so darn kind to me. They'd invited a couple of other people who I hadn't met. They're called the Purple People. They are all dressed in lavender. In fact, I renamed them the Lavender Lovers, and I'm sure it's not going to catch on, but one of them, Gillian, really liked the name. This is Gillian and Logan. They're a couple, they're a band. The band's called the Matchboxes, and they're on Spotify. So if you listen to them, I think you really like them, and I'm going to play something of them in a minute. And they were coming there, and they were lovely people. Another guy, Lionheart, called Gillian, and she asked Ryan if it would be okay, or Ryan and Jerry Lynn, if it'd be okay if Lionheart came round with his two dogs. And I said, yeah, sure. Lionheart lives in his car, and he's perfectly happy in his car. And he turned up, real nice guy. And then Arnold Guzman turned up and made us all guacamole, which was really nice. And Jerry Lynn later made minestrone and bread, and we just sat around chatting, we ate, we talked, we just had that one of those evenings where you feel so at home in a place. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then eventually, of course, we asked if Gillian and Logan would play. And Logan is such a warm, kind man. When I asked him, because Gillian is the singer, she writes the songs, and Logan said to me, I just like to make her realize her vision and make her better and try to support her as much as I can. What a man. And he's on this little child xylophone, which he's normally the drummer, but he's on a child xylophone. But just listen to this song that they recorded.
We're going to play you guys a couple songs. Okay. We'll do our 2 singles that are already out, and maybe Us, because it's pretty fun. Or sure. We could do Whisper in the Sun.
We can do
probably Us. Yeah. It's fun. It's fun. Okay, so this is our
I feel like I haven't played in a long time. It's been like 2 days.
Days seem really long on the 18th. We haven't run through these in 2 days. We're rusty now. Just kidding. Okay, you ready? Mm-hmm. Oh man, how do I usually play it so you don't mess up?
Yeah.
What is this life or even live at?
Cool. Wow. Good stuff.
So that's our.
She really has a great voice, doesn't she? Listen to the end of the show, because young Taylor, who was the Ryan and Jerry Lynn's son, had a ukulele. In fact, Gillian was actually playing his ukulele to start with. And she got her own ukulele out later, and she played with Taylor. So I'm going to play out the show today without using the Mighty Blue music. We're going to listen to Gillian and Taylor playing out. It was really such a wonderful evening. It's always difficult to impart to you how much I enjoyed being somewhere, because I guess, as I said to you before, all emotions are heightened anyway, and it was just so relaxed. They said, treat it as your home, and they were so kind to us, and the kids were engaged with us as well. Super smart kids. And one of the lads, I can't remember which one, was playing with a Rubik's Cube, which I've never understood. And they had one of their neighbours came in and joined us, and she was trying to set the Rubik's Cube in the hope that he wouldn't be able to beat it. He beat it every time in seconds. It was fantastic. But it was a great evening. And then we all had a shower there. We could do laundry if we wanted to. And there were 4 bunk beds, a two and a two, each with their own curtain, each with, I think there was a light and certainly a plug to charge your phone. It just worked. It was a lovely, lovely evening. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I will always be grateful for having that memory. But that was day number 40. Day 41, US 19E, which is mile 395.2, to Moreland Gap Shelter, mile 413.6, a 18.4 mile day, and the longest I've done so far. I got up around 6:30 in the morning, and I wandered into the kitchen as if I was at home. So relaxed was it, as I said to you before. And Ryan and Jerry Lynn were there preparing breakfast, and I sat at the breakfast counter, and we chatted and had a coffee. And once again, there was just this love of the trail they have, and the need or the desire to give back to the trail. These are special people, they really are. They made us a great breakfast and thoroughly enjoyed it. But eventually, with the purple people taking a 0, Ryan took me back to 19E. And you probably wonder why I didn't interview them. Well, they've got such a great story, and there's so much more to tell, that when I finish the trail, I'm going to interview them fully, and I think you're really going to enjoy hearing what they have to say. This was a really strange day. I started really well, and the terrain looked okay, and there was an immediate up, as there nearly always is. But, otherwise, it looked pretty good, and it was pretty good all day long. There were no further lung-bursting 2 and 3 mile ups. It was, if it was going to go up, it was going to go up for 15, 20 minutes, and then it would start going down again. And I was just out of sorts. I wasn't well, but not that I wasn't well. I think I may even have over-relaxed the night before. I just couldn't get into it. I was unmotivated. And I was having yet another stop. That's always an indication I'm not going well, is I keep stopping, keep checking my where I am on gut hooks. And I know I shouldn't do it, but I do. And I was either eating a bar or having a drink of water when a guy came past, and he immediately recognised me, and he said he was absolutely delighted to meet me. His name was Josh Hallu, or Ranger, and he told me how much he loved the show, and he asked if I'd mind if he would hike with me. And I tell you what, straight away, it's funny how you do this on the trail, but I think I would have done anyway in any walk of life. I liked him instantly. Really nice fella. And we chatted. And you know what? That unmotivated, weak person who was there a few minutes before, my energy lifted straight away, absolutely straight away. And what was great about Ranger, or Josh, he set the pace. He knew how fast I was going, and he amended his pace to mine, because trust me, he can do 25 and 30 mile days. He's called Ranger because he is a ranger, and he told me about qualifying for ranger school. Man, you've got to be tough to do that. So he was super fit, but he wanted to chat with me, and we just chatted. And very early on, he told me something that I wanted to share with you. And I asked him if it was okay. So he said, yeah, let's do that. So we sat on a log and I recorded this. Well, I'm sitting here in the woods, and do you know what? I've had a miserable day until about the last half hour. And I bumped into a guy called Josh Harlow, otherwise known as Ranger. Hi, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Mighty Blue or Steve? Great to meet you in person.
You know, I'm doing so much better now. I was feeling a bit down the dumps. And as he went past me, he said, "Are you Mighty Blue?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, pleased to meet you. I listened to the show and so on." And you've got a really emotional, special reason for being here. Tell us why you're doing the trail, or partly what you're doing here on the trail.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. I came on the trail. I started on March 8th, and March 8th was a very important day for me, very sad day for me. But the day that I ultimately chose to start the trail, I had a best friend growing up named Taylor Force. He and I went to a military boarding school for high school together.
Sure.
We applied to West Point together and eventually got into West Point together, and both went to the academy for 4 years together. Graduated. He served as a saber bearer in my wedding.
He tapped your wife's backside with his saber.
Yeah.
Right?
He was the guy that
you let a man do that.
Yeah, you know what? He wanted to do it, and that's part of the tradition. And you got to respect the tradition. So
yes.
he wanted to be the guy that swatted my wife on the butt at the end of the saber arch and say, "Welcome to the Army, Mrs. Halu." And that was the tradition, and he was happy to do it. And then we served. He went to Iraq, and then I was in flight school, and he went to Afghanistan as an artilleryman.
Sure.
And I went to Afghanistan at the same time. He was at a base adjacent to me, and I planned a flight so I could fly my helicopter as a pilot, a Black Hawk pilot, so I could land there and we could have lunch together in the middle of a mission.
That's cool. It
was incredible. And that was the
hello.
Hiya.
And that was the last time I saw him. That was I think 2013. And then he came back, got out of the Army, started going through his MBA program, and I got out of the Army shortly after, about a year or two after. But 4 days after I signed out of the Army, he was in Tel Aviv on a study program with his MBA school with Vanderbilt, and in a stabbing accident, just a crazy terrorist attack. He was the only one that was killed, just stabbed and died there in Tel Aviv. And that was tough. That was really tough.
And how this is how long ago now?
This is 3 years ago, March 8th.
And you processed that since then, but I can see, and I know this is just a podcast, so people can't see, but this is still hurtful to you now, obviously. And his parents, Taylor's parents,
yep.
Taylor's parents, gave you something really special to take with you on the trail. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it was great. I asked, I wanted to start on the day that he died, and I asked his parents for two things. One, to give me a trail name, and two, to give me something of his to carry with me. And so they gave me one of his dog tags. So I've got that on my pack. So I hike with that every day. I hike with Taylor with me. And his parents will be, hopefully, will summit Katahdin with me. That's the plan. I told them they have to start making sure they're in shape and getting ready for that climb.
Start now. I tell you what, that will obviously be a terribly emotional day, but I suspect and I hope it will be a really joyful day for all of you as well, because you're remembering that, but you're triumphing in something. You're taking his dog tags to Katahdin. Man, that will be such a magic moment, won't it?
I think so. I absolutely will be. I mean, Taylor was one of those really special people. So many people. We went to West Texas, to Lubbock, for his memorial, and so many people were there. Yeah. Probably a couple hundred. He was one of those guys that knew everybody's name and never forgot it, right. and details about everybody.
That's a skill I wish I'd acquired.
Don't we all?
Yes.
Don't we all? And he did it better than anybody. So
right.
it was like losing a brother. So glad I get to hike with him for 3 months and spend the time just contemplating life and thinking about the more important things than just the busyness of of life. So,
well, thanks for sharing that with us. And I know that I could see that was tough for you to tell as well. But
it always is.
We wish his parents well in their efforts to get ready to climb Katahdin. Because trust me, it's a long way out there.
Yeah,
it is. You're going to enjoy it, but it's going to be tough. But it's a great, not a great story, but it is a story that I think that gives you a real purpose, and so every step you take is with him, which must be really nice for you.
It is, yeah, and I'm blogging about it at, actually it's called movewithapurposelife.com. So movewithapurposelife.com. Yeah, and Move with a Purpose is all about, it's more of a military phrase, but it was all about moving deliberately, moving intentionally.
Sure.
And so what you said, I think, ties right into that. It's all it's all about taking every step out here purposefully and living purposefully, intentionally. So,
well, thanks for, not the story cheered me up, but thanks for cheering up my day, because I was having a bad day, and walking along with you has been very helpful to me as well. So
we'll manage to hold off the rain for sure together.
That's true. That is true. I appreciate it. Thanks for talking.
Yeah. Thank you, Mighty Blue.
Cheers. I tell you what, sharing such a personal story was so powerful for both of us, and it really bonded us. He immediately became a friend. This happens so many more times than you'd imagine on the trail. Sometimes you won't see them again, perhaps even ever, but he was my brother straight away. And, he was terribly emotional when he was saying it, and, I got kind of emotional as well. I didn't even know the guy. But just imagine what it's going to be like when he goes up Katahdin with, hopefully, Taylor's folks. And I said to him, in many ways, obviously, it's a sad thing for you, this whole thing, but that should be a celebration going up Katahdin. But it will be terribly emotional for them all, I'm sure, when they do it. But I was so pleased he shared that with me. So as I say, my energy had lifted by now, and we passed the next shelter, which I remember first time around, I think it was Mountaineer Falls shelter. I found it to be a very spooky shelter, and I felt uncomfortable with it last time. This time we didn't even go into it. I just felt good enough and carried on and passed a couple of more campsites, and eventually I said with about 9 miles to go, there's no way I can make it to the next shelter, which was Moreland Gap shelter. So I was expecting to bail out before that, but eventually I got there after 18 miles. So it was my longest day. And really, this is trail magic for me. Josh was truly my trail angel that day. He really just lifted me and got me there, and I couldn't thank him more. I just loved it. I really loved it. And it unfortunately started to rain about 2 miles from the shelter, so we were slightly nervous that we weren't going to get a spot in the shelter. And when we turned up, there seemed to be a lot of people there. Turns out a couple of the girls that were there were sleeping in a tent, so it was left for guys, and they just kind of scooched up, and we fitted in. And there was a group of 4 or 5 guys hiking together. Hilarious they were. There's an Aussie, American, an Irish. I can't remember who the other one was. But, they were just fun. And the fact that I could get in there was great. I apologise in advance for my snoring, which they pointed out. I did too. Me and this Irish guy apparently were snoring between us. We were in competition. But it was a very warm night, and I don't believe it. I think the rain stopped. Yeah, the rain stopped. It was nice and warm, and I slept pretty well that night. Day 42, Moreland Gap Shelter, mile 413.6 to Laurel Falls Trail, mile 422.7, just 9.1 miles today. It'd been a mild night, as I said, and there was no rain in the morning. I got up probably about the same time as everybody else, but by far I was the latest to leave the shelter. The guys left, and then the girls came into the shelter, had their breakfast. I was still doing whatever it is I do, and the girls cleared off about 8:10, and I was still faffing around trying to get out of the shelter at 8:40. I have no idea why. And the day was fairly easy again in terms of terrain. There was lots of downhill, and we knew that there was a forecast in the afternoon for rain. I planned to go 15 miles. And that included up and over Pond Mountain at the end. And it's a pretty sharp, it's a 3.5 mile switchback path, and 3.5 miles going uphill at the end of the day is not good for me. So I decided that if it wasn't raining, I'd go up Pond Mountain Shelter. But I kind of knew it was going to rain. It started spitting. So I decided I was going to bail out at Laurel Falls anyway. And you know what? I'm glad I did that. So I decided whatever I was going to do, whether I went over or not, because if I went over, it would get me into Hampton, Tennessee, at one end. If I took the bailout, which is Laurel Falls Trail, so 1 mile bailout, which takes me on the other end of Hampton. So I decided to go for that. And so whatever happened, I was definitely going to go to this hostel, boots off, and I'm so glad I did. I'm there actually now. The hike took us down into a ravine, and we spent quite a while walking through that. And that's really nice, being in a ravine. It's very quiet down there, really enjoyable. And we were coming toward Laurel Falls, and I remember in Laurel Falls when I did it first time, I did a video, because it was a month later, obviously, so the water was a little bit warmer, still pretty darn freezing. But I did a video of me going in the water there. But the first video I actually did, which I didn't show first, was me trying to go in with no camp shoes on and slipping over every other second. So it just made me laugh when I went down there. But I tell you, there are some really, really steep parts of that climb down. And had it really been raining hard, I would not have fancied that at all. You know, whoever's coming behind me, just watch out for that climb down there. I slipped a few times on the rocks, and you could really do yourself some damage if you fell badly on that. So just be careful there. The rain started actually when I was down there. So that was it. The bailout was going to happen. And you go back from Laurel Falls, you go up this path and then down, and right round by the river, the trail goes right by the water, just on the edge of the rocks. It's a beautiful sight, really enjoyable, and you go back up out from there. And I eventually came to the Laurel Falls Trail. I could see the Appalachian Trail turn right and started going up the mountain. I carried straight on down this Blue Blaze path, which was largely flat for a mile. Which was really nice for me, which means tomorrow morning I'll be going back that way. And obviously it will be one of those, an extra mile on my day, but that's the way it goes. But it was a nice little hike. And I passed some day hikers, and they were interested that I was through hiking, and they stayed pretty near to me on the way. And when I got to the trailhead in Hampton, I was about to call the hostel, and these guys said, "Can we give you a lift anywhere you like?" So that was very nice. So they took me there, and at Boots Off, I met a bunch of the previous night hikers from the shelter, including Ranger. But of course, they'd gone up and over Pond Mountain, and even then, one of the guys actually got there. The Irish guy got there before I did, and I did about 6 or 7 miles shorter. But of course, I guess that's the way it goes. I also met. Do you remember the Bens, the two boys, the two guys, the father and son, Ben and Ben, the Bens? Unfortunately, it's now the Ben, and that's his new trail name, the Ben. The father is still going. Young Ben decided not to be on the trail, and actually he called when I was there, and I spoke to him, and he's already missing the trail, but of course he is. I got a cabin. And this cabin, I'm sitting in this cabin now. You may be able to hear the rain on the roof because it started to rain again, unfortunately. Very, very nice little private cabin. Small. It's got a fridge. It's got a heater. It's got a fan. You've got coffee. And you've just got a great little setup. Lovely hooks all around you. It's a wooden constructed cabin. Nice, comfortable, really comfortable bed. I'm looking forward to that. But while I was sitting here, I thought to myself, why don't I try to get through to one of the class of Mighty Blue class of 2019. And I called Carlton Johnson. So let's hear from Carlton.
Hello?
Carlton?
Yes.
Hi, it's Steve Adams, Mighty Blue. How's it going?
Just fine. How are you? And how's your hike going? I haven't had time to listen to your videos, but I've been seeing that you've been making progress.
I'm past 400 miles. Where are you?
I'm at the NOC right now, 136.9 miles in.
So tell me, let's have a catch up. I'm actually recording this, or I supposedly I'm recording this. So see how it works out. Firstly, have you got a trail name yet?
Excuse me?
Do you have a trail name yet?
Well, my trail name has always been Vagabundo, like vagabond, but Vagabundo. It's Portuguese for. Actually, my daughter-in-law, who's from Brazil, I thought it meant vagabond, but she says actually Brazil it means lazy, but I'll take it.
So has it been? Tell me how it's gone for you so far.
So far, it's gone really well. In 2016, I got hurt, so no injuries this time, which has been a pleasure. And each day I get a little stronger. I've been taking some zeros just to give my body time to recuperate and get stronger. But mentally and physically getting tougher every day. I've got my equipment dialed in where I feel very comfortable with my pack weight. And
what have you carrying? How much are you carrying?
About food and water, with food and water, about 28 pounds.
Wow, that's pretty darn good, isn't it? It really is. It makes a difference as well. So you're going to hit the Smokies eventually, soon. How's the weather been for you? Have you had some cold weather as well?
The cold weather had been not an issue, but it had been very cold at nights. It was a struggle to keep warm, even though I had pretty good equipment, but did very well. Now it's starting to warm up, is nice. As far as rain, haven't had a lot of bad luck with it. I've been very lucky. It's been raining at night, which is, preferable and a bit drier during the day. So, I've been enjoying that. And like I said, I'm at the NOC right now. Took a Nero yesterday, had some great trail magic. They had actually a trail magic party the whole day.
Oh my God.
A guy named, it was wonderful. Lots of food and beer and good company. A guy, who hiked the AT, I'm not sure what year, his trail name was the Crazy Korean. Him and a group of buddies put together this wonderful party, and it was just an all-day thing from breakfast to lunch till late afternoon. So really enjoyed that.
Wasn't it, really?
Oh, it was unbelievable. And the day I took an extra zero because I'm from Virginia and UEA is playing the national championship basketball game against Texas Tech tonight.
Oh, right, cool.
So I'm going to watch that.
Got to do that.
Yeah.
So has there been anything surprising for you so far?
Just that I had such a bad injury back in 2016. It's just, hiking it with two good legs this time. It just amazes me how far I got, with a broken leg. And it's just surprised me how much it's a pleasure just to walk without pain. And just how much faster I'm moving. I mean, I'm no speedster, don't get me wrong, but just covering territory a lot faster than I ever thought I could.
So what's the mileage you up to now per day in a good day? What's your best day so far?
So far, my best day was the other day. It was almost just shy of 11 miles.
Okay, you're getting there.
Yeah, and the uphills are so much easier. At the beginning, you stop a lot going uphill. Now I can, no matter what the hill, I'm pretty much just steady, keep chugging, and don't have to stop.
I'm quite a few miles past you, and I still stop on the way up hills. So that's the way it goes. But look, I'm really pleased we caught up, and I'm glad you're going well still. Soon, I'm going to try to catch up with you again in a couple of 100 miles, and just keep on trekking, okay?
Well, same to you.
Okay, buddy.
And, okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I am so pleased to hear that Carlton's doing well. If you remember, he broke his leg before when he tried it before, and he's at the NOC now. But that seems so far back to me. But I'm kind of jealous of all the experiences he's got to come. Trying to do these podcasts every three, maybe 4 days, I have to reflect upon what's happened, and so much seems to be happening to me that I know it's happening to everybody else as well. So good old, Carlton, he's just going to have a great time going forward. I got a message from Bruce Matson yesterday, and he said that he liked Ryan's interview of me so much. He said, could he, Bruce, also interview me when I get through Virginia? So he suggested that listeners send him questions that you'd like him to ask me to rtkchallenge@gmail.com. And he's going to collate them all and interview me, probably adding a few of his own as well. And he's going to give away a free copy of his Platinum Blazing book, which is excellent, by the way, to the best question each week. I've been using it to find out some of the places to stay. He recommended this Boots Off place, and trust me, this is a gem to find. So if you've got a question for me, send it to Bruce at rtkchallenge@gmail.com, and you may very well end up winning Bruce's Platinum Blazing book. So there we are, over 400 miles, and I'm planning my stops and missing some of the weather. It's warming up and I'm still going. What more could I ask for? Well, what more we could ask for is going to be Gillian and Taylor, the eldest son of Ryan and Jerry Lynn, going to play us out. I'll see you next week.
Maybe I think you're cute and funny. Maybe I want to do what bunnies do with you. If you know what I mean. Let's get rich and buy private songs in the south of France. Let's get rich and give everybody nice sweaters and teach them how to dance. Let's get rich and build a house on the mountain, making everybody look like ants. Way up there, you and I, you and I. You might be a bit confused, and you might get a little bit bruised, but baby, how we spoon like no one else. And I will help you read those books if you will soothe my worried looks, and we will put the lonesome on the shelf. Let's get rich and buy our parents' homes and send their friends. Let's get rich and give everybody nice sweaters and teach them how to dance. Let's get rich and build a house on the mountain, making everybody look like ants. And way up there, you and I, you and I. And way up there, you and I, you and I.
Excellent.